This is Josh Hudson, aka Pinnacle of Man's Urge Remover Checklist. Now, I had to sit through his sales webinar in order to get this PDF, and he doesn't do quit porn coaching anymore, but I'm pretty sure you'd have seen him on YouTube before in the nofap space. He's literally called Pinnacle of Man, Josh Hudson. Anyway, I downloaded this Urge Remover Checklist to see what this guy was saying to be true about how to quit PMO. And in this are a lot of very common tactics. So if we just quickly go down what to do if you relapse, we all know relapse isn't a thing. Exercise, indirect processes have changed, delayed gratification. So I'm just going to go through all of these very, very common ways that might sound good to you. You might be in the nofap space and you might think, oh, this is a really good way to quit porn. This channel is about quitting using the freedom model, right? And other similar techniques where you don't have to use willpower. Instead, you're just choosing differently. You don't have to battle your own want. You can change your want so that you want to quit porn. It doesn't have to be a battle. And in fact, making it a battle is just going to make it hard for yourself. So, here we go. Right, I've got my coffee here. First of all, we've got an inspirational quote. Very, very cool. Winston Churchill. Right. If you relapse, it does not mean you're going down towards failure. Getting rejected by women or failing in business does not mean you failed completely. You just learned one way that doesn't work. And it's the same with quitting porn. Here's the thing, right? Why are there so many ways to quit PMO using nofap, if any of them work? I immediately get alarm bells when there are many ways to skin a cat. Because in my head, when it comes to self-improvement, self-help, whatever, when there's multiple ways of doing things, I think to myself, why isn't it the case that one thing works for everyone? Why are there multiple tactics? And then ultimately you could come out with the argument of, oh, the human brain's very complicated. One thing might work for another person, one thing might work for another. And I just think, really? I'm skeptical of that. I really am. Like, if you want to... I don't believe it. Anyway. The point is, right, you can never fail at nofap. You can never fail. Relapse is never a failure because relapse is what you wanted. Relapse, right? All relapse is you wanting to use porn and you choosing to use porn. You know when you're like deciding in your head whether you should relapse? You know that moment when you're going back and forth and you're deliberating? You're deciding in that moment. So when you decide to use porn, that's you choosing to do it in that moment because you view that to be the most beneficial option for you. The reason why people see that as a relapse is because they quote unquote don't want to use porn, but they still use it, therefore they think it's a relapse. It's not true. You wanted to use it on the front end, right? You were willing to pay that price on the front end. And this is the truth. But of course, we're going to go through and logically talk about that and not just say the truth. I very much encourage free thought, right? So, what to do if you relapse? Be honest with yourself. Have you tried everything you can do to quit? Not bad advice with the freedom model. You should really follow the book as well as you can, understand as much as possible and apply it as much as possible in order to quit or in order to moderate. If that's what you want, you can do that with the freedom model. Find someone you admire and respect and ask how they felt along the way. It doesn't really seem that relevant. It's not really relevant. Have a phone call with someone. This just seems like fluff. I don't see how that's relevant to quitting PMO. Reading Elon Musk's autobiography. Basically, what he's trying to do, right, is he's saying that you should be inspired to keep on persisting despite failure, which isn't a bad message, I guess. But the point is that you never fail to quit porn. You just do what you want to do at all times. If you're doing something, you want to do that on some level. You never do stuff that you don't want to do. So, what a lot of people think is they think, oh, I can't change my want for PMO because it's rooted in biology or my dopamine. They think that their want for PMO is fixed. That's the problem. Your want for PMO isn't fixed. And what we define as an urge isn't an urge, it's just a want for PMO on the front end. You characterizing it as an urge means that you're now so focused on overcoming urges and beating urges that you're not focused on changing urges, i.e. changing what you want. Okay? So here we go. Here are some indirect processes of change. Let's move. Don't know where to put myself. Make myself smaller. Fuck. There we are. No, fuck that. We'll make ourselves bigger. Sorry about this. I'm not even gonna. Yeah, right. So, exercise. Exercise has nothing to do with using PMO. They're completely separate things, completely separate decisions. They don't influence each other. Now, you can come up with some chemical explanation of, oh, it's, exercise makes your endorphins or whatever. It doesn't matter, because you wanting to use PMO as a product of the value you see in PMO, not exercise. If you see massive value in PMO on the front end, it doesn't matter if you exercise, you're still going to want it. Is exercising going to automatically change your behavior? No, because you're choosing. So now, if you exercise, that could factor in. You might think to yourself, okay, I'm exercising now. Maybe I don't want a PMO. Maybe my life's on the up. But that's not to say that exercise caused PMO reduction. Exercise might be a reason why you stop or reduce your PMO use. Read chapter, I think it's chapter 9, Causes versus Reasons in TFM. Very good chapter. Did you take an old alarm clock so that you didn't take your phone to the bedroom? Guys, I did this to the extreme 4 years ago. I was 20 in my second year of uni. I had a briefcase, right? Not a briefcase, a laptop bag, right? So it was shaped like a briefcase, but it was made out of felt and had a zip on it. And I used to carry my laptop around in it like a fucking nerd. When I went to the library on a big library day, I would use that bag because I could carry all of my food and my books in my big bag. And I'd have this separate laptop bag. I looked like a proper fucking Indian nerd. And I knew it at the time, but it was so convenient. I was like, fuck it. Anyway, in this laptop bag, as I said, it had a zip. So I bought a timed padlock off of Amazon. And it's basically like a padlock which has a screen on it and buttons. And the idea is that you can set the timer on the padlock for 8 hours and then lock it. And then it will lock for 8 hours and you can't open the laptop bag anymore because I'd attach it to the zip, right? So this was my clever tactic at the time, revolutionary, right? So at night time, before I go to bed, I'd put my phone and my laptop in the laptop bag, and then I would use the timed lock to lock it so that I couldn't access my devices to use PMO. And this worked for a time. The problem is that, of course, when I didn't lock my devices away, I was still able to use PMO. And even when my devices were locked away, that didn't change my internal preference for porn. So you can see I've been at this for a while, right? This is why I'm so motivated to make these videos, is because I know what works and what doesn't. And so this old alarm clock is an even worse version of that, because he's just saying, oh, don't take your phone to your bedroom. Yeah, but I took that to the extreme and used the timed padlock. So if it didn't work with the timed padlock, why do you think that this is going to work? The point is that I still internally believed that PMO was incredible, that I needed it in my life in times of stress, that it was a pleasure like no other. I had an internal preference for PMO. Right now, I don't use any porn blockers. My devices are out in the open. I just don't want to PMO. What's the better solution? Using the timed padlock and all these gimmicks? This is what these are, gimmicks. They don't actually address the root of the problem. Again, so you understand what I'm saying. You need to internally change your preference. If I want to study chemistry at degree, I went through a point of life for 4 years. No. Yeah, well, there was a point where I changed what I wanted to do in my future, so many times. I was thinking of doing computer science, I was thinking of doing physics, I was thinking of doing chemical engineering, I was thinking of doing maths, I was thinking of doing economics. I didn't even know what the fuck I wanted to do. I literally wanted to do all of the STEM subjects and I couldn't decide what to do. This was when I was about 16, 17. My point is, my decision making changed between these subjects, and it was this stressful process of figuring it out, right? My want changed. 1 month I wanted to do chemical engineering, and this is normal when you're a growing up lad and you don't know what to do with your life. At the start I wanted to do chemical engineering, right? And then a couple months later I decided, oh, maybe I want to do maths, right? And then 6 months later I decided I want to do physics. So do you see how my want is changing over time as I'm thinking differently? Deciding to quit PMO is the same thing. It's just that we've been sold so many myths, such that it seems more complicated than it really is. And I'm one of like the only people on YouTube talking about the freedom model and using it to quit PMO. There are other guys that are starting up, which I think is great. But my point is, you won't see this information anywhere else. The best people to look at are the freedom model guys themselves. They've got a YouTube channel and it's fantastic. They've got a podcast which is fantastic. The point is, you can change what you want. Your want for PMO isn't fixed. It's not rooted in your biology. It's not rooted in your dopamine. It's not rooted because you're an addict for any reason. You can reason differently. And just as I decided to go from computer science to economics to fucking chemical engineering, physics to maths and physics, and then I went to physics and philosophy. I ended up fucking taking philosophy in the end. Just as I made these changes so many times by way of thinking and my want changed, you can change your want for PMO such that you actually you want to not PMO, you know? So these are all gimmicks. These are not addressing your fundamental preference, right? Are you looking for purpose and finding passions? Again, not relevant. These are all indirect processes of change. There's a chapter in the Freedom Model about this called Indirect Processes of Change. Are you doing things to keep testosterone high, lowering stress, being expressive, working out? Again, this is like fluff. This is not... It's, because the person who's written this, Josh Hudson, doesn't know how to solve the porn problem. He's skirting around the topic with loads of indirect processes, and I'm not saying that Josh Hudson's a bad person. Let's assume he's a good person. Anyone who I critique, let's assume they're a fantastic person, right? Let's assume that. Look at his ideas. These ideas are not going to help you because they don't address why you fundamentally want to PMO more than wanting not to PMO. Are you connecting with people once a day? Again, irrelevant. Are you getting 7 hours of sleep a day? Again, irrelevant. I know a lot of you guys are like, what? Surely if you get more sleep, you're less likely to PMO. Possibly, but wouldn't you? But here's the thing. It doesn't matter how much sleep I lack, I will never want to PMO. I could get 0 hours of sleep for 2 days in a row. I'm not suddenly going to want to PMO. In the same way that if I got 0 hours for 2 days, I similarly wouldn't want to smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol or do anything else that I don't want to do. Right? If sleep is the thing that is stopping you from PMOing, that means you want to PMO. Do you see how the want is key? Changing the want is key. All of these things are distracting you from what you really want to do. And I know it's shameful and embarrassing to admit that you want to PMO, but ultimately getting real with your emotions and thinking, man, you know, I really like it, that's the first step, and then you can change your want. In chapter 4 of the Freedom Model, it goes over the reasons why people prefer intoxication, and anything in the Freedom Model that refers to intoxication or alcohol, you can just replace with porn. It's exactly cross-transferable, right? Are you removing the stress that causes tension that you want to release through porn? Again, it doesn't matter how stressed I get, I will never want to PMO because I don't view PMO as a solution to stress. And again, this nuance is so missed by most people. Like, read chapter 17 and 18. Understand that PMO cannot relieve stress, not even temporarily. This is an absolutely key insight. This is where most people are screwing up. That I've been coaching quite a lot of guys on Telegram. This is where most people are screwing up. Trust me, I've found this pattern, right? Did you do the relapse save our souls checklist when you had an urge to watch PMO? Again, the relapse doesn't exist. You're just choosing to do what you want. Urge doesn't exist. Urge is just the feeling of want. The feeling of want, the emotion of want comes from perceived benefit. I want this coffee because I perceive it tastes good and I like it in the morning because it's nice to have a morning coffee. I'm totally aware that this is pure placebo, but I like it. Fuck it. I'm willing to pay the price. Maybe in a few years I'll think, coffee is really fucking up my teeth, and I'll stop. You can do what you want in this life. You don't have to live by strict doctrines. But if you do want to change, if you do want to quit PMO, genuinely, then what I'm saying is you can change your want. Do you breathe from your stomach to release abdominal tension? Again, irrelevant to what you actually prefer. Are you doing things in your life to reduce stress and let it out of your body? Irrelevant. My point is like, okay, you might be like, but surely if I'm less stressed, I'm less likely to PMO. If you want to PMO, then yeah, maybe. But my point is that if you don't want to PMO in the first place, you can live your life with maximum stress and you will never want to PMO. If you don't want to, if you don't see PMO as a solution to stress. I bring this example up as well. Like, I went through times in my first year of university that were really, really stressful. It was really emotionally difficult. Same thing in my fourth year of uni. Same thing in my, at points throughout my whole university career, I had beers in my fridge the whole time. And the alcohol was like very, very easy to get at university. The shop is like a minute away. Never did I ever think about drinking, because I didn't see it as a solution. You can see the same as with porn. That's what I'm saying. You can change your mind such that you come to an organic realization of, hey, porn isn't relieving stress. It was just me relieving my own stress and then blaming porn. I don't need the porn to relieve stress at all. Did you do a dopamine detox for 24 hours? Irrelevant. Not relevant. Completely irrelevant. If you don't want to PMO, you won't want to no matter what. That sounds quite trivial. Like, okay, you don't want to do something you don't want to do. But you understand my point. Like, if you do not want to do it, it doesn't matter. All of these could be the opposite, right? I could have, right, look, I can never exercise. I can use my phone well into the night. I can have no quote-unquote delayed gratification. I can have my phone on the best screen ever. I can have no purpose in my life. I can have no testosterone. I can be a complete hermit. I can have no sleep. I can have so much stress. I can breathe like a fucking ox. I can do nothing to release stress. I can do maximum dopamine. I can have no great gratitude exercise, and I will still not watch porn because I don't want to do it. Does that hit home? That is literally what I'm trying to fucking say. And the grateful exercise does it's not relevant. It's not relevant. If you don't want to do it, you won't want to do it. This is not relevant. If you do want to use porn, maybe these things can be used as a little gimmick to distract yourself from your own want, or you can temporarily change your want, but it's not a long-term solution, and it's miserable. I was in this for years. I was miserable. These sorts of tactics, man, these self-help tactics are so pointless. If you found the root cause of porn, are you working on that area of your life? Vague and not relevant. How do you know what the cause of your porn use is? Oh, I was traumatized, that's why I did it. Oh, my childhood I was a nerdy guy. Not relevant. Irrelevant. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. And your want is determined by perceived benefits. It's simple. And I'm not saying it's easy. You have to understand the freedom model thoroughly. Have to undo all of that brainwashing. It's not a case of just reading it and then you're done. You need to understand what you're reading, guys. You do. It does have to be that way, unfortunately. I know it's a long read, but what else am I going to tell you? Have you reached out to a coach, a mentor, or a friend to help you? You don't need to do that. If you understand, with the freedom model stuff, the guys offer coaching, and I offer coaching too, but only insofar as you understand what's going on. You don't need to be helped out during a time of difficulty or during an urge. You need to have external help. No, you don't. You need to understand the freedom model, understand concepts. That's it. You don't need to have an external means of support or a support network or anything like that. Have you forgiven your past trauma and lowest self to release shame? Irrelevant. I could just say irrelevant for the whole thing. Have you repaired damaged relationships? Irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Are you meditating 10 minutes a day? No, it doesn't matter. Irrelevant. And of course, he's got his sales link at the bottom. Let me just review all of this, right? I think you could sum up this entire urge checklist with one word. Guess what the one word is? Irrelevant. Irrelevant. Not relevant to changing your preference. You're not questioning any of the perceived benefits here. You're not seeing greater benefits in abstinence. All you're doing is finding gimmicks of distracting yourself from what you want instead of changing what you want. So like this vid so that we can share this shit around the fucking internet. Share it with your buddies who are perhaps in the nofap space, who are at least somewhat interested in actually being free and who are open-minded. And subscribe, because we're going to fucking take down this nofap space and really share the truth, and we can then create a space where people can actually quit PMO and aren't in this cycle of what is essentially hopeless fucking depression. Is fucked up.